Today, I'd like to talk about the large-scale protests in Shanghai over unpaid wages. Let me start by going back in time a little. In 2021, which marked the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping introduced the concept of common prosperity. At that time, I had already started this channel, and I argued that such a concept was never going to materialize. The widening wealth gap and the neglect of the poor in China stem from the existence of the Communist Party itself. As long as the party is in control, there is no way that those at the bottom of the hierarchy will ever see improvement in their lives. Observing subsequent developments only confirmed this. The moderately wealthy are becoming poorer, and even large corporations lose their political backing as influential party officials fall from power, leaving those companies politically vulnerable and exposed to sharp declines. Instead of heading toward common prosperity, China is moving in the direction of common poverty. This isn't a sharp analysis or due to any deep knowledge I have of China, it's something anyone with a basic understanding of how China operates could foresee. For instance, when the government allocates funds to help the poor, that money often disappears along the way. Even when disaster relief funds pour in from both domestic and foreign sources, they rarely reach those who actually need help. The same goes for common prosperity. Any budget allocated for such purposes is siphoned off by those in power. So, even if Xi Jinping declares common prosperity, it is inherently doomed to fail. Back when this was announced, some viewers commented that Xi Jinping was making China more equal. Fast forward a few years, and now we're looking at what's happening in Shanghai, one of China's economic centers and supposedly its wealthiest city. Let me introduce a particular area of Shanghai called Guizhou, Seven Treasures, which is known as Chipao among locals and Japanese residents. It's somewhat of a small tourist destination, where Shanghai locals often go for a short getaway. Guizhou is located in the outskirts of Shanghai and is an area with many factories. Here's what happened there. Many people blocked several lanes of a major road, effectively sealing it off. These protesters are migrant workers, non-Mingang, from rural areas who work in urban factories. Unlike the seasonal or short-term labor many may imagine, migrant workers are now a crucial part of the urban workforce. For example, in Shanghai, the local population with Shanghai household registration is aging rapidly. The working-age population is shrinking, making the city heavily reliant on migrant labor. Many of these migrant workers have been working in the same factory for over a decade, believing their jobs to be stable. However, they are now protesting because they haven't been paid their wages. Unfortunately, in China, when the economy worsens, it is often the weakest who bear the brunt. Companies may refuse to pay wages or settle debts with weaker business partners, and this is not uncommon. In Japan, unpaid wages would signal a company on the brink of bankruptcy, leading to a loss of trust from business partners. In China, however, withholding wages is often a company's first move to prioritize other expenses like critical supplies. Workers are told to utilize labor arbitration, a government-backed mediation system, but this is often inaccessible to the average worker due to the complexities and costs involved. To add insult to injury, companies are also pressuring employees to resign voluntarily to avoid paying severance. For example, in Shanghai, workers with over 3 years of tenure are being offered only 3 months' worth of minimum wage as compensation to resign. This violates labor laws, which stipulate severance must be based on the worker's actual monthly salary. Yet, many workers reluctantly accept this due to the dire situation. These protesters in Guizhou work for a company called Guoli Shenpai, a major supplier of leather for car seats, a lucrative business with strong ties to the Chinese Communist Party. The company was backed by Guo Boxiang, a former Politburo Standing Committee member and one of the China Seven. Guo passed away in October, potentially leaving the company vulnerable. This might explain why protests are happening now. Workers might hope that exposing these issues will lead to intervention by new political forces. The backdrop to all of this is the increasingly dire situation in China's automotive sector. Fierce competition among domestic automakers and export restrictions from Western countries have pushed the industry into turmoil. Local governments are propping up struggling automakers to protect their regional economies, which only exacerbates inefficiencies and drags the sector further down. The situation at Guoli Shenpai, with unpaid wages and forced resignations, reflects the broader economic challenges facing China. Similar incidents are likely occurring across the country, and it's plausible that labor strikes and clashes between workers and companies will increase. I will continue to share updates on such incidents through this channel. Thank you for listening today. I'll see you in the next video.